Fragmented identity, the evolution of the distorted human form in modernism. For centuries, art was treated as a mirror held up to nature, an instrument of refinement, balance, and anatomical perfection. The human body, especially, was idealized into symmetry, carved like marble in the Renaissance, measured like mathematics in classical proportion. Beauty was certainty, flesh was structure, identity was stable, and then, the mirror shattered. The question is not simply when it broke, but why the body became the first thing to fracture. Today, we trace that rupture. From the ordered calm of Renaissance realism to the jagged psychological landscapes of modernism, we follow how the human figure stopped being a vessel of harmony and became a battleground of inner collapse. The death of anatomical perfection. In the Renaissance world, the body was a map of divine order. Artists like Leonardo da Vinci dissected human anatomy not to distort it, but to perfect its representation. Every muscle had purpose, every proportion suggested control, but by the early 20th century, that certainty no longer held. Photography arrives, and with it, a quiet revolution. Suddenly, the burden of realism is lifted from painting. A camera can capture the surface of things with mechanical precision. The painter is no longer needed to replicate reality. So the question shifts dramatically. If the camera shows what the body looks like, what is left for art to reveal? The answer modernism gives is unsettling. Not the body as it appears, but the body as it feels. As industrialization accelerates, cities swell into machines of smoke, steel, and speed. Human beings are no longer centered, they are absorbed into systems they cannot fully understand. Work becomes repetitive, time becomes fragmented, identity begins to blur under the pressure of modern life. And so the human form in art begins to change with it. The industrial meat grinder. In the modern city, the body is no longer a stable object, it is processed, strained, distorted by environment. Artists begin to reflect not physical accuracy, but psychological experience. Cubism emerges first as a fracture of perception. In the works of Pablo Picasso, the body is broken into geometric shards, viewed from multiple angles at once. A face is no longer a unified identity, it is a collage of conflicting viewpoints. Reality is not singular, it is assembled. What once was skin becomes structure. What once was unity becomes fragmentation. Then comes something even more visceral. In the paintings of Francis Bacon, the human figure is no longer just broken, it is eroded. Bodies melt into cages, blur into screaming silhouettes, dissolve into raw emotional residue. There is no comfort of form, only the exposure of internal panic. Bacon does not depict the body as it is seen, but as it is endured. It is here that modernism reaches its most uncomfortable truth. The body is not stable. The self is not stable. Even identity itself can collapse under pressure. The psychological body. What unites these distortions is not chaos for its own sake, but a deeper attempt to represent what realism could not, psychological reality. The fractured body becomes a metaphor. A face split into planes is a mind split by contradiction. A smeared figure is not just distortion, it is trauma rendered visible. Modernism does not destroy the human form, it reveals that the form was never as fixed as it seemed. War, industrial labor, urban alienation, all of these forces press inward, reshaping how humans understand themselves. The body becomes a site where invisible pressures finally take shape. Conclusion. When form becomes feeling. So we return to the original question. Why did artists abandon anatomical perfection and begin tearing the body apart? Because the world itself had changed shape. The Renaissance gave us bodies that reflected divine order. Modernism gives us bodies that reflect psychological rupture. One shows how we wish to be seen. The other shows how we experience being. And somewhere between those two visions, the human figure stops being a symbol of perfection and becomes something more fragile, more honest. A record of what it means to survive modern life inside a breaking self.